Hello, everyone. I am Lindsay. Welcome to Unfiltered Snapshot. So, last time that I recorded, I asked you all, how are you staying sane? And I shared the different ways with you in which I'm staying sane. And today I'm going to ask a different question. I'm going to ask, what are you honoring? And I know it's kind of a weird question. It's not one that is asked of me every day. I don't ask it of people every day because, the word honor, it's a pretty special word, but it is a word that has been on my mind a lot, especially in the last few weeks as there's been a lot of news coverage talking about, how leaders and different people are honoring the lives of COVID victims, especially as we in the US have hit the 500,000 mark. It's pretty insane to say that out loud and think about it. I was going to record something a few weeks ago, but I think I also just needed still time to process that number myself and what that means, especially for the times we're in, because the last year it's been challenging for people to different extents and for different reasons. Especially if you're someone who does follow me, usually like you get a good sense of that. For me, it wasn't just COVID itself, but then even the way it intersected with, or still continues to intersect with my own medical journey, being a breast cancer survivor, as someone who was already going through that journey, like, starting that journey before COVID and then also during COVID. And, of course, just still envisioning what that can look like after this pandemic. Around the same time that it was announced that the US hit 500,000 COVID deaths, it also came at the time that I was coming to my anniversary for my mastectomy last year. It's pretty crazy to think that at this point it has been more than a year now. And the morning that I woke up, it didn't occur to me right away it was the anniversary. But then, I looked at the date on my phone and I'm like, wow, it has been exactly a year. And I was thinking about just what I had been going through, what I had been thinking at the time that I was, you know, going on the ride and to the hospital, and just thinking about um, what was going to happen to me on that date last year. So I actually wrote a little something. And I actually, if you're someone who follows my blog, I also did share it on my blog as well. But also, I do think there's some people who just like, hearing these things come from someone's mouth rather than just reading it. So I'm also going to read it aloud for those of you. So it's a post that I shared. I guess on my personal social media, I had shared a photo of myself the morning of my mastectomy, and so here I'm just going to read the words I have going along with that post, where I'm basically, in the bed and like all, I got the like surgeon's cap and the blankets, pillows, just all ready to go to be rolled off to my surgery. And so here is what I wrote on the morning of that anniversary. So here we go. Here's a photo of me a year ago in bed at the hospital, waiting for my mastectomy. I am happy that the surgery went well. This was before COVID hit my city because I am not wearing a mask. It is days like this I am grateful for whatever health I have. It is also days like this that I do not apologize for being as vocal as I am about the need for healthcare, health insurance, medical leave, and other systems in the United States and around the world to be more centered in justice and equity in a concrete way. I remember how scared I was on this day, and that is why I empathize with anyone who has endured an individual trauma during the collective trauma of this pandemic. As I type, there are people suffering loss due to COVID, racial violence, power outages, recession, and so much more. Despite all of this loss, many of us will get up and go about our day without acknowledging this collective trauma. There's something really cruel about that. We should be sending aid to people devastated by loss, demanding new policies to prevent these tragedies from happening again, or spending time to mourn these losses in community. But so many of us will not. If we're fortunate enough to have a job, we're going to do our assigned tasks and projects, and will likely engage in no conversation or action that addresses the immediate needs of our country or our world. Many of us work in environments where our leaders do not have the skills and tools to lead through loss, and it is as apparent as ever. Whether we have jobs or not, there is so much messaging in this country to be productive, be productive, be productive. And for what? What purpose can I find in quickly completing assignments while my country, my world, is experiencing loss? Oh, I know. It's my pay, my benefits, my health insurance. At a time that I want to do something more significant and needed in this world, I am living in a system that forces me to be more selfish. When you go through a health scare like cancer, people tell you that the experience will show what matters most in life. They will never tell you that the rest of the world will catch up in making that realization as well. There's a good reason for that. The latter statement would be a lie. I hope all of you are able to hold both your gratitude and your grief. Love is sacred. Love is everything. Part of love is mourning when there is loss. Mourning is healthy. Mourning is as sacred as the people, things, and experiences we have lost. Yeah, that was on my mind the morning of the anniversary of that surgery. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it gives you a pretty clear idea into my mind of everything that I was experiencing, everything that I was thinking. Um, I just think that when someone goes through some type of loss, some type of hardship, people say like, oh yeah, it clarifies so much of what matters to you. It clarifies. Um, and while the clarification can be true for some people, it doesn't always tell you what to do with that clarification. So sometimes you have that epiphany, sometimes you have that aha moment, but then there might not always feel like a next step for an aha, if that makes sense, right? Or like once you have the aha, then what? Now what? And sometimes you're just left sitting with it, or I'll say sometimes I'm left sitting with it. So in case you're wondering like, oh, what inspired that post aside from it just being the anniversary of the mastectomy, I think it was also the different experiences I had had since the mastectomy. For example, um, at my hospital, I'd been attending, or I've continued to attend, a support group for BIPOC survivors. And during one of the meetings, I was just sharing the different feelings I had about my medical process, survivorship, all that stuff. And one of the co-facilitators of the group said something about how how it is possible to hold both grief and gratitude. I think a lot of us can be in environments where you're made to feel like you have to choose between grief and gratitude, when the truth is sometimes you have one gets sharpened because of the other and vice versa. Um, and also on the day of my mastectomy, or no, not the day of my mastectomy, but on the day of the anniversary of that mastectomy, I also felt the need to reach out to my chaplain at the hospital, because she just had been so supportive throughout my whole like diagnosis and treatment process. I mean, I don't talk to her as frequently as I used to, but I just felt the need to chat with her. And I did share with her the piece that I wrote, the piece that I've just read to you. I shared it with her as well by phone. And, it's funny. She thanked me for it. And when I told her about just what I had learned or what I had heard in support group, she said something to me that stuck about grief and gratitude. She said, grief and gratitude are sisters. And yeah, I mean, they really are paired. I don't necessarily look like, I don't necessarily visualize them as being on opposite ends of the same spectrum. Um, I really do think that they go together more than anything. And the reason that we even know to feel grief or to feel gratitude is because we have felt all the other emotions, right? Um, and that's what my experience has been in the last year. In the piece that I just read for you, I did talk about what did I say? Like love being sacred. Yeah, yeah. What did? Let me just go back to the part that I read. I'm trying to find it here on my phone. If you're listening to this, just doing a lot of scrolling. Yeah, there was a part toward the end where I said, love is sacred, love is everything. Part of love is mourning when there is loss. Something that I had read in recent weeks, it stuck with me about, just about the sacred. And so I actually want to read that. If you recall from last time, I read a meditation from this book. It's called Journey to the Heart. It's by Melody Beatty. Again, I don't read from this book every day, but I just, every so often when I feel the need for inspiration, for something to help me keep sane, this book has been helpful. And one of the daily meditations is titled Develop a Sense of the Sacred. So I'm going to read that for you. Develop a sense of the sacred. During my stay in New Mexico, I found myself repeatedly, almost magnetically drawn to the Ojo Caliente hot springs. The grounds weren't fancy. Soaking cost only $8, but I felt so safe, healed, spiritually connected when I was there. At times I felt almost an electric energy coursing through my body when I roamed the grounds. On my third visit, I noticed a small marker hidden on the side of the parking lot, and I began to understand my feelings. The ancient spring was actually a Native American sacred site. The energy I felt there was real. I was standing on holy ground. Develop a sense of the sacred. Develop a sense of what is sacred to you. Allow yourself to see and feel the holy grounds in your life as you go through your days and years. Many times, what we're going through, what we're seeing is sacred, but our minds diminish that idea. So much in life is holy, but often we don't make the connection. Listen to your soul as you experience life. Let yourself connect with what is holy and sacred to you. Stop chattering for a moment. Be still. Experience. Ask your soul to show you what's holy. The electric energy will rise through you. Your soul will come to attention. Learn to feel, see, and know the beauty of the journey you're on. Develop a sense of the sacred. Where you're standing is holy ground. I'm not going to lie. Not every daily meditation every day really sticks with me. Some of them I read and I'm like, oh yeah, I figured this or that. But I read that one and I'm like, oh yeah, that one like really hit in the gut, really hit in the heart. And hopefully it resonated with you too. And hopefully you can develop a sense of what is sacred to you. Because I think if we are able to develop a sense of what is sacred to us, we then know what to honor. We then know what to acknowledge and recognize, what is worth our time, what is worth our energy. Because God knows there is just so much stimuli coming at us these days. And I'm definitely trying to figure ways to just take it all in and not be overwhelmed by it. Um, yeah, it's really hard, and I'm still trying to figure out what that means on some days. Um, so actually, that brings me to my next topic. Is that some people, when it could be friends, it could be family, just like other people in my life, they keep assuming that I'm like, because of like just the health issues that I've had in the last year, they think like, oh, okay, Lindsay is going to be somewhere near the top of the list for a COVID vaccine. And like I told you before, I'm the one person in my family who hasn't been vaccinated, just because we're all in different locations and have all different priority levels. But I'm, for one reason or another, I'm just like not at the priority level that people think I am. People think I'm higher on the list than the reality. And so actually, as recently as today, I had to just put a message out to people who kept asking me over and over again, and so this is what I wrote. For those who have been asking, no, I am not eligible yet to receive a COVID vaccine. Recently, I have told that to some people, and they are shocked. They tell me about their friends who got, because, well, I guess I should have read them. They tell me about their friends who got it because they take care, or said they take care of their elderly parent, or because they are smokers, or because they work for a medical institution but work remotely, or they live in a community with more medical resources, or they had a connection that enabled them to get to the front of the line. Do any of those reasons shock you? They shouldn't. Whether or not you think those are valid reasons, they are the policies that are currently in place. In March 2020, I saw many Black and some Brown people on my social media being impacted by COVID the most. In March 2021, I saw many white people on my social media being vaccinated for COVID the most. I'm not exaggerating. It's the truth of my social networks. Are you shocked? Probably not. Yeah. So, yes, for people who might be wondering, that's just what I know today. I honestly don't even know right now where I stack up in the list, because depending on who I talk to, so, even among healthcare providers, I tell them about my situation. They're like, oh, you should be able to get it now. And honestly, after doing some reading, I realized like, no, I don't. But yeah, again, um, if those healthcare providers can't really keep it clear, then how, then how can the patients, right? And then I got a message saying that I'm not eligible from it by one of my medical offices, and then I again, but then just because of that, it still doesn't actually tell me when I'll be eligible. So like so many of you, like I'm just waiting my turn. I'm really waiting my turn. I acknowledge that these systems just are not efficient. They don't always seem to make sense. And it is what it is. When I was talking to a friend and mentor today, she was so shocked. And I mean, that's just the interesting thing. I don't know why there is shock at this point, given what's been happening in the country for the last year, or one could even argue the last few centuries. It shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be a shock. And um, I hope that whatever fervor people had for change, for progress in our society, I hope that hunger, that thirst, that desire, that passion doesn't just go away because maybe your particular personal situation got better. You know, I really, change comes in waves, but these waves don't have to be so far apart. So that's all I can say. I think I'm really doing what I can to focus on my healing. Because we know, again, the last year, there is no way someone could tell me it is something other than collective trauma. We all know that this pandemic fits the very definition of it. This pandemic, in addition to all the other pandemics going on. Um, Actually, recently, actually, it was just yesterday, I attended a conference, and one of the sessions was healing through movement. And I thought, ooh, what's that going to be? Is it going to be am I going to learn some new exercises? And I was thinking of things like meditation, yoga, something that was, rooted in some like, faith inspired tradition. And then as I read the description more, I'm like, oh, it's a not a yoga class, it's a Zumba class. And I really do enjoy Zumba, as you may already know, just from my past episode on this podcast. And I thought, okay, cool. I haven't been to a Zumba class, like a live class, in God knows how long. But I did go to it. I went to the whole thing, and I just after the session, I thought about, like, wow, like I never necessarily thought of a Zumba class as healing through movement, but that's actually what the session was called. And I think because a lot of times out there, especially just on the market, when we're looking at magazines, at TV shows, YouTube videos, all that stuff, there's a certain branding that gets afforded to certain things like meditation or yoga. And one could argue that these traditions get appropriated to some extent. I never necessarily thought of Zumba as a form of healing, but hey, if it's movement, if it speaks to my soul, speaks to my spirit, if it gives me joy, how can that not be healing? So, maybe it's Zumba for me, maybe it's kickboxing for you, maybe it's basketball, who knows? But, I'd really encourage you all to think broadly about what type of healing you can gain through movement and through other practices. And they might just be the very activities that are not promoted when talking about healing traditionally. So that's just something to keep in mind, especially if we're building along these things of like, how do you keep sane? How do you honor what's important to you? Because those are really going to be the things that are going to keep us motivated, like in these times. And then with that said, I just said, oh, it's not always meditation. It's not always yoga. It's not always those practices that contribute to healing. But actually, I will say that one of the videos that I've been putting on repeat so many times on YouTube is actually this yoga video so the name of the series is called Yoga with Faith Hunter. You could just, find that on YouTube. She has a whole lot of videos, and I really love her video. Like if you type in Faith Hunter neck and shoulders into your search bar, she does a brief video on yoga to really target those spots. Because for me personally, that's where I tend to hold just like a lot of stress, and it could feel like a rock sometimes around my neck and shoulders. Oh my goodness. Just as someone who isn't necessarily the hugest yoga fan, but still someone who practices it because I do understand the benefit. I would really say check out those Faith Hunter videos. And again, I really love the video dedicated to stretching out the neck and shoulders, but she has so many great videos out there. And really, it's just something that I keep doing because I'm trying to remind myself that in a time where it just feels like a lot of things are not being treated with the utmost respect, the utmost dignity, where people aren't always being honored in the ways that they should be, it's really, it's really necessary for me and for all of us to do what we can to honor ourselves, honor our souls, our spirits, our minds, our bodies, because the truth is no one else is going to do it for us other than ourselves. And yes, maybe along the way, some of us will get certain help here and there, but there definitely has to be a part of the process that comes directly from us, directly from myself. And, it is hard work on some days harder than others, but that's just that's how I stay sane. That is um, how I continue to honor myself in a time where it feels like a lot of things aren't being honored. So I really hope that that's what you take away from this, just a few ideas on how you can honor yourself, honor the things and people that matter to you. So yeah, share with me, like, what are you going to do? What are you honoring these days? And how are you going to honor yourself and the things that really matter to you? Well, I hope you have a great week. Take care. Bye bye.